Oh, nice.
Okay, quick recap. It's only been like 30 seconds. In this roundtable, we're gonna start by talking about season zero, feedback we got, addressing that. Then we're gonna be talking about ideas we have for season one, getting feedback on those, and then we're gonna be talking about some things we are doing in season one that we're gonna give away here a little bit early before the rulebook and signups are officially released. First, we're about to talk about the system we implemented for season zero, and that will be at least somewhat in place for season one playoffs, and concerns people had about high point, low point, being a bit OP in that. All right, we can continue now.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just talking about, I guess the idea behind the format. I think, um, when we crafted it up, the kind of idea was that in other draft leagues, there are a lot of games, that I don't necessarily want to say don't matter, but you can see like these 50-point gaps where it's like, okay, one team is like very clearly supposed to win this game, um, or you get these situations where you call them like quote unquote throwaway rosters, where it's like, sorry, you guys kind of just have to, uh, eat a little bit of crap here so that the good of the team can survive, And the idea behind this format was that, by having a high point versus high point and low point roster, everybody really contributes to the team win, like pretty directly, right? In a lot of situations and cases for especially lower tier players, I think it can feel like, you know, it's cool to be in games with higher tier players and feel like, yeah, like I did it, I did my job. But at the same time, sometimes it can turn into like, just bully the low tier player as hard as you can to try to get the win. And so the idea here was that there are two different rosters that play against each other and kind of resolve that issue to some degree by both being important. Um, and I think what confuses me about the feedback, I guess, on saying like, oh, high point versus low point is OP is, well, your low point has to play their low point, and your high point has to play their high point, right? So, in theory, it should be equal. I understand the push to like, well, if you think you have a better Game 5 roster, then this would be strong. But I think there's a lot of nuances to it. Just curious what people have to say, I guess. I think I hit everything I was thinking of, Ishan, if you have anything.
Yeah,
Looks like
I
Red
just
requested to
wanna,
speak.
I'll add him in just a second, but I just wanted to add that like you said, there could be concerns because I know some low point players do want to play with high point players, and that's not eliminated with this system. Like if a team has two strong midpoint rosters, you could still run midpoint the whole way through, and it's not like you're at a disadvantage for that. Your midpoint's going to be against a low point and a high point, so it's still like the idea of the format is to make essentially every game close and more series is kind of go the distance.
Mhm.
Um, all right, I invited you to speak, Michael. What did you
All
want to
right.
say?
I do think that high points and versus low points is just kind of really strong in a format like a 5 game format, where like your best players get to play 3 games. I won the season, and I was talking to someone like my lower pointed players, and I was told I didn't feel like we won the season because we lost a good majority of our games. Like it's like yeah, I drafted a really strong high point that's like chill and all, but I don't feel like I did much to impact the season because like we'd be put on low points, and yeah, we're going against their low points, but it doesn't matter if their low points are winning when my high points just smash theirs. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I mean,
Um,
so is that a problem with the format, or did you just draft a weaker low point roster? Because like your low
I
point
think
is against other low point rosters, right? So like
I
it's not
guess
like they
it's
didn't have a
fair.
chance to win. Like I know a lot of the games I watched of your team, for example, like there was a lot of close games even in the low points.
I guess it's fair, but I just think it might be more of a benefit if we go to 7 games instead of 5, because that way your best players aren't just like expected to carry like while your low points suffer. Maybe it's just the team I
okay.
drafted though, because like drafted a very top heavy team,
Mm-hmm.
whereas we probably could have like if I drafted differently, we could have drafted more like midpointy, because I know that's what
Okay.
Slime did. So
I do have two things to say then about that. I think the first one, uh, is kind of a question, I guess, and the second one is something that we forgot were in the rules and didn't enforce. The first one being, you said like your best players just get to play 3 games out of the 5. But in a best of 7 format, your best players just get to play 4 out of the 7, right?
Well,
So
in that scenario, okay, so I think in that scenario, because correct me if I'm wrong, 3 of my best players getting to play 3 games in a best of 5, as opposed to like 2 of my like, how do I say this? Um, Maybe you're actually right. I wasn't thinking of it that
well, no,
way.
you're not tripping because the second part I was gonna say actually is, um, we didn't enforce because I don't think it was super clear in the rule book. Game 5 was not supposed to be, um, just play like 3 of your highest. One of the rules actually in it was you were only allowed 2 players per tier, max, and so you couldn't play 3 tier 1s. But that never actually got enforced, if that makes sense. So, like, you could just put 3 of your tier 1s and then, however you wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
That rule kind of
literally,
got missed.
yeah, all the
It
staff
was
and
in the
players
rule book,
forgot
it
about
just
it.
wasn't
It
under
was
Game
missed.
5, it was under a different section.
Yeah.
And I think just because it got missed in general, we just didn't. I didn't even catch it till after. I was like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
talking to Tate at one point, and I was like, wait, I thought this was a thing. Like, why is this not here? And then I found it, and I was like, wow, if it took, the people that wrote it that long to find it, there's no way that other people would
Yeah,
have found it, right? So,
that makes sense
does
because
that change the way that you think about it too, as well?
yeah, because okay, I'm not gonna lie, I had Projecti's help on a lot of rosters because I love playing with him. He gets really like so hyper fixated on on drafting and like making rosters. It's so nice because like I have someone reliable who can help me. Like he like day one he said I have read the rule book. Just come to me for rosters. Like, goaded. So like he didn't even tell me that existed, by the way.
Yeah.
So
It
um
like I said, it was hard for us to like. I reread it and because I was like, I swore I put this thing in there, and I had to hunt for it to find it. And let's just say the next rulebook will not be that way. I took that as a little bit of like self feedback, I guess. And the next rulebook will be a lot more clear on the way that it kind of calls out the rules that way. This was a pretty fast thing that we put together. So my bad.
all right, that's all I
Okay.
have to say.
Then real
Thanks,
quick,
King.
I'm gonna address Icebound's point about so no, I wouldn't say we're all in on high low. It's more like, and this is just for playoffs. Keep in mind, I would say it's more like we're all in on higher versus lower than high versus low, because midpointing is still an option. If you midpoint, like so the first 4 games of playoffs in season 0 were all the higher point roster against the lower point roster for games 1 and 2 and for 3 and 4. Midpointing is still viable there because if you do double midpoint, you still should win the lower point game, and if you have a strong midpoint, you could win the high point game. It really just depends on, I think, roster construction.
And
In
kind of
draft.
your draft to some degree,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
each team's gonna have different strengths. You have the person like in theory, the person who has the pick spot that's 8th has like a more middle of the pack team, where the person who is pick spot first in drafts like Nico has like
Mm-hmm.
in theory like this turbo high point roster, right? And it ends up coming down to you as a captain of what split do you think is correct to a degree that you could win both? Because the series is kind of driven in a way that you should end up at game 5 if you're like pretty even. But I think the reality is if you really do sneak 2 wins in that format, like you are miles ahead of your opponent. Like it really puts pressure on them to have to win both games now, right? And so if you manage to sneak one of those games with whatever you're able to plan or whatever combination of players that you think could handle their high tier or low tier, right? Um, I just think that there's ways to counterplay it
Yeah.
more than just say like slam your high players here and your low players here.
It's actually really rewarding to have a strong either low or midpoint roster. I'd argue it's more rewarding to have that than a high point roster because you can sneak that extra win and get like a 2-0 start or a 3-1, and that's really advantageous. Also, we're gonna talk about this more later, but there involving regular season of season 1, there will be measures in place to discourage high point, actually high low. So midpoint is definitely going to be a bit more encouraged. Do we have anything else about season 0?
What did we have?
Not that much. Oh, someone requested this week. Yo, what's up, Data?
Quickly, it felt like side selection was kind of a contention point for us, because in our series, they went 5 games, we had side select in 1 game.
You know what? I just opened my notes. That was the third point.
Okay.
So good
Yeah, I
call
just wanted to
out.
bring it up because it
Yeah,
felt like
yeah.
it was kind of punishing to like, it's based on points obviously,
Mm-hmm.
so you can get it in game 1 and 2, but then it's like entirely arbitrary based on win or loss after that. So, it just felt kind of punishing for our team. That's just small though.
That's fair. I know, Jared, you were looking at this earlier. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah. I could 100% be wrong about this. It was kind of just something that we wrote down, and so I'm glad to hear feedback. And if you think that like my thought process here is wrong, I'm super happy to get this changed. There are other ways that I think we're thinking about changing it, but I guess the idea is that in games 1 and 2, it's decided entirely on the point value headed into the game, right? And I mean, the idea behind that is pretty simple. It's just if you're a lower point value team, you should need side select, right? I could see the argument for picking one versus the other, but I think it kind of becomes difficult to decide who gets to pick how they have side select for which game, besides maybe like the team seeding when it comes to playoffs. But then the side select between games 3 and 4 is really just based on whether or not you're behind, right? It's really trying to funnel you into this game 5 situation. And then my thought past that was the current game 5 was just point value. I actually wrote a question mark in the current like season 1 rulebook of not saying it's the same format, but in a similar situation, should we give side select to the team that had the advantage but lost it because we make these rules, or not rules, but we give these side select options to teams to kind of funnel it to that last game? Does it ever make sense to make the last game to the team that was ahead, 2-1 or was ahead 3-2? I'm also kind of curious, like, your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would just be like, in the best of 5 series, obviously, like, you're up 2-1, then you don't have side select for games 4 and 5. Because like it's possible to split game 1 and 2. You don't have side select for game 3, 4, or 5. I would say like if you're up 2-1, you get to game 5 and you haven't had side select for the last 2 games and you've lost both of them, then it just defaults back to you. Because game 5 is obviously going to be both teams' high points anyway, so the point difference isn't going to be huge. But I guess it's kind of a reward, I guess, for getting ahead to have side select for that game 5 in your pocket, as opposed to what felt like kind of we got a lead, but we're in equal games from there on out, and just are repeatedly kind of never getting
for getting
select.
ahead, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, just whoever lost game 4 should get side select game 5.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I guess for a best of 5, obviously that's the only way it can happen.
Right.
You know? But for a best of 7, I would say similarly, like if one team has side select for 4 games, and you get to game 7, it just defaults back to the team who's only at 2.
Yeah.
I'm not against that.
Okay, I can agree with that. I think the reason I do kind of like the game 1 and 2-1 is because I think that it can give you the ability to, like, as a captain, in theory, you could try out playing the other captain and attempting to get side select there if you think it's like an important or relevant thing to your strategy. Like you can really try to achieve that, I guess, as one of your things. But your rosters would probably take a hit because, like, obviously you're lesser PV than both of their teams, right? But I definitely see how it becomes punishing, where it's like, wow, we hit game 5 and we only got side select once. Like, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like give captains the ability to make changes if they want, but when it does get down to like the final game, if one team's ahead 3-1 in side select, it just defaults back. Especially since game 5 or 7 is always going to be both captains' highest points in this kind of scenario anyway, because there's not like a game count minimum that people are looking at.
Yeah.
in the same way that other draft leagues have it. But yeah,
Okay, I can agree with that totally, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I also have one more point as
Sure.
well if we're good with this one.
Go for it.
Shoot, did I just like brain lose it? Oh, okay, I remembered. It felt I like having game 1 and 2 played concurrently, but it also felt like most captains weren't prepared to do that, and so they just had one game draft and start, and then had the next game draft and start afterwards, which I felt like kind of defeated the purpose
I
of having
agree.
them start. Because like obviously draft and game start, we'd like it to be faster, but it's like a
Yep.
good 15 to 20 minutes every time, and so it kind of defeats the purpose of having those concurrently of game 2 starting 20 minutes after game 1.
No, I 100% agree, and I think was it with you I was talking about this, Jared?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely talked about it after, particularly even finals. I just said I don't think it's I in my mind had envisioned but never put into the rule book that you would be drafting and playing them at the same time. Like
Yeah.
there would not be one person drafting for both games, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But is that something that we don't want? Like, do you feel like that would be a bad thing, Data?
I think it's a good thing because here's what I would recommend: having at least maybe this is where like some kind of tandem captain thing comes in, because obviously there are some teams who could potentially have only one person on the team who's able to like draft and get the game going.
Yeah.
But if you have two, obviously it's not a problem. But it's kind of awkward because I could see some situations where it could be really, really annoying. But it's obviously better for the continuity to just have two separate units going and drafting at the same time. But obviously that requires the captain to like trust somebody to run draft for their low point or high point, whichever one they're not on.
Yeah. I think ideally they should have at least somebody they trust, right? Like you have a vice captain usually, and even then, like to some degree, that can be a strength or weakness of your roster, right? Is draft is part of the game, and even Riot is like enforcing it in their future stuff, right? They're saying like if you dodge in champ select, you're getting a loss, and one of the reasons they cite is because they call it like champ select part of the game, right? So I don't know. My take personally, whether or not people feel differently, is I think that they need to be drafted and played separately. Like, and from then on, you know, you kind of have the group dynamic going on. But the idea is that the first two games are fast enough that you can finish a best of 5 in a day and not have it feel insane. Where like some best of 5s can feel pretty long if you do 5 games.
All right. Did you have something to add on to that, Muffin?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I would 100% agree with the take that draft is part of the game. I think I am recognizing that there are not a lot of people that are very comfortable with running draft, and I think that that's okay. But low key, the answer is probably just get used to it. Like I think people have to learn. Like this is it's part of the game. It's part of like even when you load into a ranked game, like draft is a part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like
And I
if you
think
just
it's not
walk
even
the same
crazy
champ
to
over and over again, it will ruin games sometimes.
And if you do feel like you know you have a weakness in there drafting where like you couldn't be in one, I don't think there's anything crazy to say. Like you know what your game 1 and game 2 roster are gonna be. Ideally, like the whole week, right?
Yeah.
So
You can prep it ahead
you
of time.
could draft plan or prepare ahead of time as well.
Yeah.
It actually wouldn't be hard for a captain to just literally have a list of champions that get picked in that order for their team, you know? Like if that's a real concern. But then there's another good reason to midpoint, right? You want to put one of your tier 1 players with your lower tier players so that way they could do the draft for them eventually, right? Or your withheld player does the draft for your second game. Right? There's all sorts of strategy that actually could be valuable here.
Very much agree. And on the topic,
I do see.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go.
No. I was about to transition to a different topic.
Okay. I do see one problem in that if a captain was really good at it, you could draft one game and then draft one game immediately after, right? And the other team wouldn't know like there's no real way to enforce that that's the way that it's happening, other than like, you know, start both drafts at the same time or something of that degree, right? I don't know that enforcing it is the easiest thing in the world.
I mean, you could have them
My-
in their team calls.
My
Yeah.
honest take is if a captain's capable of running 2 drafts at the same time, they should just fucking, like, good for them.
I don't mean two at the same
Realistically,
time, but I mean like
that's a hard
if
Like
I was
rapid
able
fire.
to finish the first draft and like realistically
Chip,
you
go
could finish
chime
the
in
first
for the
draft
second
and then
one.
boom start the second one, right? Like it wouldn't even be that crazy of a time difference, I feel like.
But I think the idea is if they could do that and still start on time, then I don't think anybody would complain. I think the goal is for the start time to be reasonable,
To be
correct?
reasonable.
Yeah, I could agree
Yeah,
with
That's
that.
the
that
goal.
is the goal.
So then, you know, if somebody decides that they want to run draft faster, slower, whatever, so be it, right?
Yeah, I think we just need to have, because there was even a lot of game time or downtime just between games in this tournament, like way more than I would have liked. I think the goal, like, we just need to add like, and they don't have to be super stringent. They don't have to be super tight timers, but there has to be some sort of timers that there has to like max time between games or max time like draft doesn't start by this time. And if teams want to come to agreements during some series to start the first draft earlier so they can fit both drafts before the time, sure. They just need to be started by a certain time.
I think that's fair. I think that's also like, I think it's a fair restriction to put on captains to say, hey, like we need to be able to pace things appropriately.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's gonna complain about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then what I was gonna say is, I was DM'd a point to bring up, by someone who couldn't make it, and it's kind of on topic of Season 0 draft, but it was an idea of how to kind of pseudo implement Fearless into best of 5s or best of 7s in this format, which is just essentially individual Fearless for the series. What do we think about something like that?
You mean like for the player?
Yeah. It wouldn't work in like 3 blocks or best of 3s, but 5s and 7s potentially an option, I guess.
I think Fearless probably is just something that will have to be explored a little bit deeper.
I think I agree.
I don't dislike the idea. I think the only problem that I have is the difficulty in tracking it, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, even in standard Fearless, when you watch professional games, they have it, you know, on the side like these champions can't be picked.
It would be
but,
fully up to the teams.
You would have. I mean, in theory, you could freak make some bot, right? But I don't expect that to. I mean, that's some professional level stuff, right? Like even.
I mean, it would just require
it
people.
would be very difficult.
Yeah, it would be
'Cause
difficult.
it would
It's
have to
doable.
pull what champ they played, and it would have to pull what players are in the game, and then
Yeah.
show you a screen of what champs then couldn't be picked.
Yeah.
It's seems
definitely
fair though.
doable.
Like I like the idea. I like the idea a lot. I just enforcing it
Yeah.
seems really difficult.
Now, this
They're not
is
forcing it,
something.
but, like making it clear.
This is something I think is doable to add to like the website or something, but it would definitely be later down the line. It would take some time to figure it out. It wouldn't be a season 1 thing. Is my point, especially
And
because
we do have fixes, right, that we think are in place for like regular season.
yes,
So
yeah, and we will
can
get
talk
to
about
that.
those later
Yeah.
or whenever we get to them. But we have places for regular season, but postseason not necessarily. So
Yeah.
I am definitely open to ideas there.
Yeah. And, you know, with that, we will move to Season 1. First, before we get to things that we are doing in Season 1, I wanted to bring up an idea that was brought up for Season 1. One that I know can be kind of controversial, so I'm curious about other people's thoughts. I'll just say it. I mean, it's a gauntlet. What do people think of a gauntlet for, like, the bottom 2 playoff spots? Because I know some people are in the mindset of, oh, the bottom teams have already given up by this point. They're not going to play the gauntlet or not care about it. What's the point? But I know there's also the other side as to, okay, if there is a gauntlet, maybe they won't give up till the end. So what do people think about that? And you can either raise your hand or just type in the chat. I am curious about thoughts on that. We got one. I like it. Any other thinkers? Thought havers, perchance? Yay, nay?
I used to fill the empty air, I guess, while we wait for maybe people to respond or jump in. I very much was of the opinion, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was one of the opinions voicing that, like, I think in general some of the lower teams really just want to be done. Like, there are a lot of cases where just things didn't work that season, or players, just found out, like, hey, we don't really mesh that well. Sometimes I come to game day and I'm just ready for a new season, a new draft, right? And then they probably wouldn't like the idea of getting pulled back into a gauntlet. But it also depends, like, what kind of angle you're keeping people in, right? Like, is everybody enabled in the gauntlet and we start from the bottom? Is it best of 1, best of 3, best of 5? I think the idea is best of 3. That keeps it pretty fast.
Or another option is, because we do have the condensed best of 5 format, we could just have best of 5 where the higher seed goes in with like a 1-game advantage. Because they are the higher seed in regular season, I feel like they should get some sort of advantage there.
Yeah, a game seems pretty high. It's
That
just
is
hard
fair.
to
That is fair.
hard for me to tell. And it's also I guess what I was saying. Do we include everybody or do we include like 10 up, or like how? For the last 2 spots, how many games need to get played?
And I think I did bring this up when we were talking about it earlier, Jared. I think, like, say we have, like, 12 teams in a season, I think, like, a gauntlet from, like, 7 to 10 seed. Because I feel like it's usually just 1 or 2 teams at the end that are like, I just don't want to play anymore. And the other teams are usually at least trying for playoffs. So I feel like 7 for 10 is not too
saying
bad.
in the chat, too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's saying if you're dead last, you probably don't want to have
Yeah.
But Eric's saying as long as it's not a best of 1.
Agreed.
We have someone that likes it. And, I definitely think there's potential to it. I find it hard to justify over giving it to the teams that got 7 or 8.
That's fair.
Personally, but I'm not opposed. Incentive to teams who are currently in playoff spots.
So like seeds 7 and 8 in this case, in this example. Yeah,
I mean,
there would definitely have to be an
current
advantage.
only advantage to seeding is like the choice of opponent. That is the current only.
Oh, actually, okay. I was DMing Project earlier, and he had an interesting idea about this. What if the higher seed? What if it was like a best of 3, right? What if the higher seed got to choose whether high, mid, or low points were used in it?
In the 3rd game or something?
Didn't get that far.
Or like.
But what if there was some kind of choice in that realm?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's enough though. Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I think like it hits game 3 and you're like, okay, it's a high point game. The only problem is to some degree that can feel a little.
Yeah.
Clearly, these guys drafted for high point, but it's only as doomed as any other high point versus high point, right?
I know it's a big advantage, but I think it might have to be something like a full game. Like it could be the condensed best of 5 with a full game advantage. It is.
What if it's
but I think it has
side
to be
select every game?
That could be. It could be something.
Or. Yeah, I don't know.
Checking back in.
Extra bans.
We're talking
Team
about
that wins the game
what
gets extra
benefit
series
the-
bans.
We're talking about what benefit the
So like we're talking about what would benefit the higher seed in the gauntlet match.
Well, the 2 things, right? Like, so he recommended it actually as a way to implement Fearless, as adding bans as you go into the series, instead of per person, which is interesting. But I also like the idea as like, yeah, if a team got more bans or so, they definitely got to get something for being, higher in the gauntlet for sure.
Okay, but we can workshop this, and if anyone has ideas, you can let me know. But the general consensus seems to be, gauntlet could be interesting, could be a positive thing. There just has to be a way to give the higher seed a meaningful advantage. Well, no, the issue with tracking Fearless was we were talking about Fearless per person instead of per game. So like, say, if one person picks this champion game 1, they can't pick it the rest of the series, but other people can. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it with importing data from tourney codes as a match ends, and kind of filtering out that data and sticking it on the website where roster submission was. But it would be definitely a later down the line thing as I figure out how to do it properly.
It would be pretty like I'm not even a coding person. I imagine the difficulty in doing it, and it would be really really cool if you got it working. I just the only other thing I want to do is I want to voice my opinion on Fearless like standard. For a draft league, I think is pretty bad idea. I don't mean like per person. I mean Fearless in terms of if we just made the series for Fearless and not per person.
Oh, I agree.
Then you're punishing people who aren't even in the game, you know, for champion picks, and it just feels like you're restricting in a way that doesn't need to be restricted because two different players already have two different pools, right? But I do really like the per player thing. I just, like I said, Ishan, that's a later thing because it'd be really hard to make it clear and obvious.
I do think there's an
Best
element
of 5
here
if 11 players felt short.
that is very valid, which is Fearless restricts fun. I think Fearless is only fun if it's implemented in a fun way, right? And so, like, randomly rotating, not for playoffs, but for, like, the season, having, like, weekly champions that are banned could be interesting. Right, it would have to be a large. It would have to be a large number.
The issue is that feels really RNG. Because like, what if you're in a matchup, right, and like your team has a bunch of champions banned that your team plays, but the other team's just fine.
100%. But that's again, right? That's where you get into what is going to be fun. That's I think overall the goal is what is the most enjoyment for the most number of players.
Yeah,
I can 1,000,000,000% get down with the idea that Fearless is not fun.
I will say, I think the idea that we're going to touch on later with how we're doing standings is a way to implement what you're talking about.
Yep. I will say, I do firmly believe in this, Ishan, and I brought this up earlier, if you don't mind me bringing it up again.
Go for it.
But I think having a tournament, much like the one that we just had.
Oh, right.
Like a weekend tournament that's full Ironman Fearless could be incredibly fun.
That is something we can talk about at a later date. Because that would be after season 1. Yeah.
If you did something like that, you might have to just have no bans. Like no bans. Just it's full Fearless.
Ironman Fearless.
Well, that's part of Ironman.
Yeah,
bans persist
per game. That's what makes it psychotic. Right?
Yeah, it's again, 20 champs get removed from the pool every game.
That's where you start running into some fun stuff. But again, that would be a fun, enjoyable thing to have for a short tournament or something of this sort, right?
Right. Go on with what you were gonna talk about, Jared, in chat. Unless it's gonna be later.
I was just saying that whenever we get to season 1.
Okay. Well, that is next.
Because I don't know what all you want me to share.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm down to share whatever, to be honest.
You want to talk about the stages?
We can, yeah. We can go to that. We're on playoffs anyway, yeah.
If you'd like to share it, I can share it if you don't want to.
Sure.
Up to you.
So
thing, King.
The current, well, it was your idea.
It was a collective.
Fair enough. Well, okay, so the current idea for season 1, Gauntlet aside, that's still up for debate, if we can find a good way to implement it, is, so like say we have 12 teams, which is the goal. Top 8 teams go to a Swiss stage. For those of you who don't know who that is, or what that is, I mean, you play teams with the same record as you until you get 2 wins, and once you get 2 wins, you advance. So everyone plays each other at the beginning. Everyone's 0-0. Then after that, the 0-1 teams play and the 1-0 teams play. If you lose your 0-1 match, you're out. If you win your 1-0 match, you're in. And then after that, all the 1-1 teams play and the winners advance. So it ends up narrowing it down to 4 teams, and then there's a normal bracket. And the Swiss stage would be best of 5s, and the bracket of the top 4 would be best of 7s. It's essentially
the elimination games, right? So all the teams that are 1-1, when it's in like an elimination setting, it would also be best of 7.
Yeah, right, exactly. So like the
Because we
elimination
have
games.
we have 2 weekends, so 4 days,
Mhm.
and the idea is that with this modified best of 5 format, we feel comfortable about completing it in one day and not feeling awful for everybody involved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that you can do one best of 5 day 1, one best of 5 day 2, and then days 3 and 4 will be best of 7. Um, each, the first 4 games one day, the next 3 games the next day.
Yep.
Um, it's kind of just an idea to kind of combine the both and of what we
Yeah.
tested.
It's a way to add losers bracket without adding a ton of time. It gives people who lose in the first round of quote unquote playoffs still a chance to make a comeback without
Yeah.
adding like 3 weeks for a losers bracket.
And on top of that, I think a big problem that I have when it comes to losers bracket in League of Legends that I've voiced in our admins chat is in fighting games or traditional fighting games is like where the losers bracket, to my knowledge, originated from. And so the idea there usually is when you get back to finals, you actually have to beat the player from the winner's side 2 times to beat them. And that's the disadvantage of having to come from losers bracket, is that you have to win twice to beat them, right? Because they never lost. They came from winners. The problem that I have with League when they run it in like the North American format is the losing team that ran through losers bracket is very advantaged, because even though you have to play back to back, you only have to beat them in one set. There's no like quote unquote bracket reset. Like you just have to beat them one time. But I think what's interesting about the Swiss is like, okay, you can afford a loss and then keep going um and then get there,
Yeah.
But I see what you're typing, Data. I agree that like it would feel bad to get eliminated if both of them were best of 5. But I'd also make a point that like, wouldn't the team that should win the whole thing, like you would think they could win one best of 5, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I could be wrong. So if that feels wrong, maybe we should make the elimination ones only best of 7, or something. Maybe we can change it that way. But my take is if you're the best team, or you are hot enough to be able to win, you should be able to beat a team that lost their first best of 5 once, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. And it's only going to be 2 teams that are eliminated that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
figured
welcome
it'd just
back.
be better to talk about
Fair
it and
enough.
type it over. Yeah, I
You're
think
good.
I don't hate the idea of just trying to like shorten it and make it faster, but I do think maybe that for the 0-1 teams who are playing to survive,
Mm-hmm.
maybe have that be a best of 7 for them. Just because I feel like the way the rosters are gonna shape up, just me kind of like thinking about how captains are going to use the system to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a best of 5, it's more advantageous to high low point, just because you get to play your high points 3 times. They only get to play theirs 3 times, and if you think you have the better team, you're always winning that regardless of situation. Like there's
Yeah.
no way around that really. But if you are using a best of 7, obviously you're only playing 2 people 4. It's a little bit less likely for you to like load up on games and just play for 3 wins
Yeah.
in that scenario.
And I don't
I just think
disagree with that. The only slight issue I see is that does add an extra day, which actually ends up adding an extra week. Now, I will say, if we do hit the ideal number of 12 teams, in theory, we could do the first round of Gauntlet on the last week of regular season, because it would just be a day with an extra day hanging.
Is your idea for playoffs for all the games to be consecutive, or are games 1 and 2 going to be concurrent again?
For best of
In-
fives, games 1 and 2 would be concurrent. As
It
of
might
right
be
now.
okay if you just apply it to games 1 through 4. Like you just do 2 sets of it.
So the issue is games 3 and 4 don't require you to have 10 unique players across them.
We have the
What if you did?
withheld player technology, and so that
Yeah.
player's in both of them.
Yeah.
We could change that rule and see what we could do. The other problem with best of 5 is like it felt short when we made one of them concurrent. How short would it feel if they were both concurrent? You know what I mean?
Well, it was only for the best of 7 in that scenario.
Oh, yeah. That's
Gotcha.
interesting. Yeah, we had fooled around with that as well, and then I was like, wait, but then it wouldn't work for this.
It's awkward for sure. I just think
You
it's
could do 5 and 6, but when
Yeah.
you get to 5 and 6, it's it starts to be like, well, you didn't have to play this one, you know, like
I also think
like if you win 5, it's over.
yeah, it takes
Type
away some of the
situation.
gamesmanship for captains too. I think a big thing for playoffs is like guessing rosters and stuff like that too, which
Mhm.
is obviously less impactful if it doesn't matter. If you just high low point, you're getting the matchup you want regardless. So
Well, there's also like the. Do you think that the Game 5 thing that we kind of ignored adjusts that at all, or are you still like
yes, I think it
you
will
just slam high
absolutely
point?
matter. I don't know if it'll like dissuade it, but it just brings that point system down to the point where like you're not able to just load up game 5.
Yeah.
You are
The-
kind of required to play. What I would say is maybe a better system if you're going to do a best of 5. It obviously like really constrains rosters, but have it so you can only have 2 people in each tier. So you could have 2 in tier 1, 2 in tier 2, and then your remaining player has to be from that tier 3 position.
That's
I think that's
yeah,
what it
that's
was.
what the rule
Yeah.
is. That's the current
Oh,
rule
okay.
on Game
Yeah, then
5.
that's
That's it. We just didn't enforce. But I was curious, if you're concerned about it being loaded up, right? Like, could you say that you would want it to be 2 tier 3s, 2 tier 2s, and 1 tier 1? The I think the problem that we ended up debating was like, in general, when it comes down to it, like even in other draft leagues, it comes down to some degree to your best players, right? Like that's kind of how it goes. Is like your best players really should have a shot at winning the series for you. Like that's I think typically just how they're run, and so it makes sense to probably keep the 2-2-1, um, as that. But what do you think there?
I think it definitely helps. Trying to just think, like, in my mind, having, for a best of 5, having 2-year players have such an outsized impact on the outcome of the series is kind of weird as a low pointed player, just because it honestly, like, you could straight up just get stomped both games and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just the way it goes. I don't know if there's a way around that with the system without just like kind of forcing people's hand to a
Yeah.
point that you don't want them to, but that's just something that I noticed. I think it's just a best of 5 problem though, right? I think with the best of 7 it kind of helps
Yeah.
because you just have more games to cover, but if you just want
Yeah.
the time constraints of the best of 5, maybe kind of fiddle with that game 5 scenario to bring the point system down just so that the high point players don't have such a large impact.
Some things that we've thought about is I don't know that we're gonna implement. Like I think we've moved away from them, but I'll just like bring them up in case it's an idea that people really like. Is what if your season position determined how many points you were allowed to play in Game 7? Um, or not even necessarily how many points you were allowed to play in Game 7. Like, what if let's say that league average is 90 points, right? What if the team who is, finishes first gets 30 points? And you can do with these 30 points, you could say the other roster has to play 30 points less. Or you could say my roster gets 30 points more. Or you could divide them in a way that kind of works out. Was something that we tooled with before deciding on just the maximum 2-player per tier. I just think there's some way that you can do it so that it's not just like, hey, guess what? We have Nico, and you don't, so we just slam high point win 3. But even then, right? Like Nico's team didn't win their first round. And I don't think it's crazy to say that he was the best player in the tournament, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point, I guess, but just some thoughts.
Yeah, I think having a way to incentivize the higher seeded team is nice. I don't know if I necessarily love having it be like roster affecting, just because it's gonna feel really bad if you're going into game 5 and you just can't compete.
Yeah, you just
Um,
have all tier 4s or whatever.
I think there's probably some way to play around that though, either with like champion draft, maybe you get additional bans, maybe team gets less. Something to kind of incentivize people to be higher seeded would be nice, especially if you aren't using like a traditional perk system.
Yeah. That is fair. Anything else on this topic?
I don't have anything else. No.
All right. In that case, do you have anything else, Jared? On playoffs?
Not that I can think of. That was just a loose idea.
Fair enough. All right. In that case, we're gonna move on to regular season. Oh wait, hold up. Killer said something. What about 5 tiers, 2 players per tier in finals? I feel like adding more tiers just constricts draft more. It gives you a lot less options on each pick, which I'm not a fan of personally. The reason we did 3 tiers was to give more options.
I think also the issue with, more tiers, fewer options, but also it's really hard to tier players is something that I think is like kind of misunderstood. So fewer tiers means more accurate ratings of where players actually need to go.
So
If that makes any sense.
the issue I found with being able to reach down 1 tier is if one captain just does poorly in draft, reaches down 1 tier, and now there's a person from the tier above available in a lower tier draft. Because if you reach down 1 tier, then that means one player from the tier above has to drop down.
Or is he saying
slot.
like in the game, like if you were playing and you said like one from each tier, right? Like if we said in the current format, as an example, 2 players from each tier, but you could replace your tier 1 player with a tier 2 if you wanted, or you could replace.
Oh, I thought he was talking about draft.
You could run like 1 tier 1, 3 tier 2s and 2. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's saying like based on draft or based on like that kind of a situation.
Yeah, I agree, Data, but there's always going to be like that one captain who comes in and you're like, okay, this person's a good captain, this person's captain before they've done well, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to draft a friend team this time. And they just draft lower tiers in slots of higher tier slots just so they can get friends. Or something along those lines. Stuff always goes wrong when you don't want it to. I think it's best that we can just account for them. And instead of restricting tiers, then giving options to draft out of them, if we just had bigger tiers in the first place, I think that it kind of helps that. So, Chalupa, that actually won't be possible in our format with something we're about to get on. But good point, if it was.
This is kind of interesting too, Ishan. I didn't notice it
Uh-huh.
At the time. Both of the captains that we put in there, because they had never played
Yeah.
before, they both won their first series.
Yeah. We put 3 in there.
Okay, yeah. I only knew the 2.
Havoc Lost and Chaotic Jules.
Okay. I didn't know Chaotic was new to the format.
Yeah. We kind of wanted to... I think we wanted to give captains more flexibility without just doing full open draft, because I think that's too much flexibility, personally. I think that just gives way too much room to just troll draft. So we just decided to move to 3 tiers.
It's also less fun, I think, for captains, right? You could imagine being a captain and then being told that it's full open draft. You have to do a ton of research on each player, right? Figure out who's the best and line all of them up. I think it's really hard.
What's interesting about the open drafts is that there was a season where that got ran, and the 3 of the most broken teams in the history of the entire draft league were all during that one.
All it takes is one person to troll draft for
Yeah.
broken teams to be made.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just that, like all 3 of those teams, if they were put in a regular season by themselves, would have won it like hands down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
the open
Data.
draft is pretty interesting.
Alright, but I do want to move on to a point that relates to what Chalupa said, kind of, which is regular season, how we're doing standings. So, this is a bit different. I don't think I've ever seen a league do this before, at least directly. We're not doing standings purely off of win-loss. We are doing standings off of a point system where win-loss is still king. It is still the biggest factor. But it allows us to add a ton of other incentives to add points here and there to keep it interesting and allows us to easily change things between seasons, add some spice here and there. So yeah, the current metric we have is that wins are worth 10 points. And then we have a bunch of other things that could be worth a varied amount of points depending on what they are throughout the season. For example, roster diversity. So like if you have a player of each tier in a roster, you get an extra, I don't remember exactly how many it is off the top of my head, but I think it's an extra like 2 points per win if you win a game with roster diversity. Another idea for that we had is like we said earlier, we don't really like fearless in this type of format. So what we did to compromise was at the end of the season, we'll count all the unique champions that your team had throughout the season, and you'll get extra points on your standings based off that. And these are just 2 examples. We have a bunch of other incentives laid out in the rulebook that'll be released with signups released later. But that's kind of the system we have for standings going into season 1. Do you have anything to add to that, Jared?
No. I mean, I can post an image of an example, right? Like
Sure.
hockey, I didn't realize actually moved to the point system. And theirs is pretty simple, right? There's no like incentives or anything, but it's just you get 2 points for a win, 0 for a loss, and you actually get 1 point if you lost, but it was in overtime. And there are some teams that I don't know exactly. It's because they did something to the overtime rules, but it is interesting because there are teams that their win-loss is worse, but they've gone to overtime enough times that they actually have slightly more points or even points to other teams in the system.
And we have mathed this out with the incentives we currently have laid out to where more often than not, the team with a better win-loss will still be higher. But if a team fills out enough incentives, then they could edge out a position. If the teams have the same number of points, then the next metric will be win-loss. And if both are high, then it'll be head-to-head. Yeah. And also, Chalupa, to your point that I touched on earlier about it being impossible to not be able to afford your team, there is no point bank. There's just point negations for high pointing, which also touches on the point earlier about encouraging mid-pointing. Going over, and I believe we'll have to change this, I was thinking about it, but in my head right now anyways, it's going over X amount of points over your team's average point value results in like -2 points for them winning that game. So this incentive system. Okay.
Minimum games too, right? Like
Yeah, we have to add something for that. I was thinking about that earlier too, because I realized we forgot to add something to that. But yeah, the general idea is we're doing a point system for standings that lets us add all these incentives, which in turn allows us to explore a bunch of different concepts without making them like set in stone rules, and more so, how do I word this? We do. You know what? I'm fine with releasing what we have right now because it's not done. So we have right now, or you think it's fine, Jared?
I could just like screenshot it and put it in.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if it
fine.
stays there forever.
Yeah. That works. And I don't think the screenshot you're going to send has wins on it. Wins are worth 10 points.
I was gonna send the one straight from the rulebook.
Yeah,
Just send the
I
one
don't-
from the Excel sheet instead. I think it's the same though. I think I got everything moved over.
It doesn't have wins on it.
Okay, we'll
The
just
rulebook
ignore
ones.
wins for now.
Yeah. Just keep in mind wins are worth 10 points for this. Yeah. And then you can send the screenshot of the one from the rulebook. And this is still a work in progress. It's mostly done, but it's not completely done.
Some of them are for like the first one is a bit for fun.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't label the columns. It is points, but it should be pretty clear.
Yeah.
The left side is the points you get. The right side is the name.
Yeah. And the descriptions aren't fully fleshed out, and some of them are slightly incorrect, but like, for the most part.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in
for
progress.
sure not complete.
But overall, as the concept
the
that we're
idea.
trying to implement is that. So does anyone have any thoughts, opinions, suggestions on that? I think it's a pretty cool system. It allows us to do a lot of things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And it also allows us to change things up season to season pretty easily and add kind of more fun optional options, like bold, for example, on there.
I think the bold one is kind of wild. I don't know that
Yeah.
I'm in love with it. Like
I mean, it's the type of
to
thing
be-
you do
to
if
be
you're like,
straight about it though.
yeah.
I'm the guy that came up with it, and I still don't know that I love it. But I do think it's an interesting way to be like, we're so behind this season.
Yeah,
The only
yeah.
way we're getting back in is if we just no ban all the time and
Yeah.
just like, you know, guns blazing. I don't know if it's fantastic. Like I could see angles where it gets abused, but I'm kind of the opinion of like, fuck around and find out, right? Like that's why it's a low point. Like it's just one.
Yeah.
But
So
it'd
what?
be interesting to see how often it gets used or something.
Yeah. So why do you think win streak is abusable data? Do you think that encourages just running a bunch of high points and then running a bunch of low points? Is that your concern?
It probably
Yeah,
does.
that's sweet.
He's
Well,
probably-
the thing is if you high point, you get -2 points.
it encourages you to run a bunch of rosters in a row
Mm-hmm.
that are all with the intent to win, and then run a bunch of rosters in a row that finish your minimum games
Mhm.
or whatever. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
so
pretty
that
much.
they're-
It'll
That's
just
they're
fair.
all at once. But even then, it can still fall apart, right? Like you're not guaranteed to win a game just because you have higher points.
Yeah,
but
and even if you do have higher points, there's 3 wins before the win streak buff becomes active, so the -2 points for high pointing kind of negates that, I think.
it depends on if you're high pointing to get them. I really don't
Right.
know. He might be right that it's abusable.
I mean, if in theory, right, if you're win streaking without high pointing, then you kind of deserve it, no?
I think the main issue I see with it is like, so what's gonna happen is say your
Mhm.
team's midpointing, you win 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Afterwards, your captain says, "For 1 win off this win streak, just high point it up," and then people are going to start abusing it to the point where like it doesn't matter, especially because it's consecutive. You can then just continue getting the wins.
Uh-huh.
That's the way I see that abused. I'm not sure it's like necessarily a huge problem with the high
Yeah.
point.
So what if
penalty, it's
we
just-
decrease the win streak points to 2 then, so that if you did high point for the extra win, it gets counterpointed by the high point points, and you only get rewarded
would
for win
help.
streaking off mid points.
That would help for sure. It won't be as abusable. It'll
Yeah.
just be like, okay, you happened upon win streaking.
You can
Yeah.
even make high point -3 instead.
That could work too. Yeah,
The
I'm down for
problem
that
I
one,
have
actually.
is I don't know about
Oh, I think
I
I was
don't
looking at
know
that.
the
I
way
think
that
it
we
has to be
determine it.
team average, not league average.
it's gotta be something else. I just don't know yet.
I mean, I think it just has to be team average, because what if your team just costs more than the league
Yeah.
average, right?
Yeah.
Also,
might
for the bold thing, I think so. My assumption on how bold will end up getting used is not by teams who are behind; it's by teams who are high pointing and they know they get wins, and they're gonna
Yep.
be like, "If I'm winning this game anyway, I might as well get 1 extra win."
But here's like the thought behind it too is it's only 1 point, and if you're bolding to get the extra win when you're high point, or like think you're so confident that you can beat them, isn't that a way to make the game more even?
It's definitely a gamble for sure. I don't actually know that I dislike it
Yeah,
because
'cause
like,
it's only 1
for
point.
The math,
I did like what
Icebound
Icebound put in the chat actually. Icebound put bold you should only get the points if you win.
Yeah. Oh, is that not the case?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
okay. Initially that was not the case.
Oh, you know, I think I was mistaken. I was under the assumption that all of these were only on wins.
Oh no, I was under the assumption that it did not matter.
Okay.
Well,
Actually-
upset was.
Actually, no. I'm fine with diversity not only being on wins, because I think roster diversity should be encouraged in general.
Yeah, I think that was big.
Yeah.
big-
I'm down for bold to only be on wins. I'm down for bold to only be on wins.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah,
make
that's
the argument that if it's only on wins, you could up it. I agree with you, Did it could be abused though, or quote unquote abused in the sense that a high point team that thinks they can just win can use it. But my first thought goes to, well, if you're gonna go no bans, then maybe we'll beat your ass. You know, like you
No.
won't get to ban our one trig or.
Yeah.
I think the big thing on it is like just finding out the math balance on it, because at one point I don't know that it's going to be mega abused, because like all you have to do is lose one of them to be down 9 points on average.
Yeah.
So teams are probably less likely to do it.
So we did
I mean,
do
actually,
that.
I
just
win.
it has to be
I
weighted
don't-
to in a point where like if we're setting win streak and high pointing to the same thing, right? Like what if you were to win streak, high point, and bold, and now you're gaining 1 because
Yeah.
you think your high point can just win? I agree that there just has to be some balance that gets done to it, but I think part of season 1 might just be finding that out to some
Mhm.
degree. But I think it's a fun system. Like, how do you feel about the system overall? I guess as opposed to the
Oh yeah, I like it. I think it's
specifics?
like
Okay.
it's a really cool way to kind of make roster construction more impactful, more so than just did you win or did you lose. I would say, like, from my experience, every single time you look at one of these things, just ask yourself the question, what is my most abusive captain going to do to like find an advantage?
Yeah.
And if you feel like it's still good, great. Like you've got something that's gonna work. But if you feel like the most abusive captain's gonna find some kind of loophole that actually gives them like an advantage, they will use it 100%.
To some degree, finding that loophole though is to the strength of captains, and would get like if a captain finds that loophole, it's kind of good on them. No, like
I think
it would suck if it like ruined the season. That
it's
would
good,
be the
but
only.
yes,
you
that's
know.
the main problem I've run into is like every single time we find one of these loopholes, it's
Yeah.
usually used in a situation where it negatively affects another team quite bad.
Yeah.
I can
Um,
understand that completely.
And I
So
will
like
say-
if you feel like it's good, go for it. But it's just ask yourself that question with every one of these is like, how is somebody going to abuse it?
For sure.
Yeah. And I think a way to do that is just making these worth less points potentially for season 1, just to see how it works out, and then adjusting afterwards, so that you can't, even if someone does find a loophole, it's not gonna be that many points that they're gaining off of it.
Yeah, like in theory, we could make a win 20 points and keep these all the same, and all we do there is shift the impact of what these are
Yeah.
actually doing into like just extreme example. If a win was 100 points and these were as they stand right now, they would literally only be tiebreakers, right? Like that is all that they would be as
Yeah.
tiebreakers. But the idea, hopefully, is that if you do a really, really great job at these, you could jump a standing spot or two.
Yeah.
I
And
would
here, I'll go and
hate
post the
for
chart
somebody to
that we
jump
did.
more than that, you know?
So we did kind of math it out. We put like rough estimates and kind of generated some random numbers between reasonable ranges as to how many points people could get for these things. And the result we came to off of that, which obviously it's not perfect, right? It's guesses. But the result we came to off of that is that more often than not, with the weights we have right now, standings will not be affected, but it will make close standings a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I think there was a case here where the 19 and 17 team. I know this table's kind of hard to read, but the team that we placed at 19 and 17 actually finished ahead of one of the 20-win teams and made playoffs in this situation.
Yeah, and I think it
Where
was
the team
mainly...
that went 21 and 15, one of those teams, I think actually were pretty low or comparable points to one of the better teams below them. So like, ideally, it's affecting 1 to 2 standing spots,
Mhm.
depending on how good or bad you do.
Yeah. And ideally, it's because of things we want to encourage anyway, like roster diversity or not high pointing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea. I think just make sure, like you said, you want to make sure that the bonuses are what you want to encourage teams
Yeah.
to do anyway, rather than like the high point, low point stuff. Like I think the win streak thing is cool, but maybe abusable to the point where like it's just going to go away from what you want anyway, which is kind of mixing up your rosters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I do really like the rest of it where
that's right.
diversity and like the unique champion stuff is all stuff that is rewarding to the teams who are kind of playing the way you want them to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Something we could do too is we could not include it in season 1 and purely track how often it occurs naturally.
For which,
Could be
just all of
something
them?
that we see for win streak or even
Oh, for
for
win streak.
anything, right? Like
Yeah,
is
I'm down
not
to make it just
tracking.
1 point for win streak this time, because I don't think 1 point win streak is gonna affect much. It's not like people going crazy win streaks that often, right? And 1 point isn't season breaking by any means, even if it stacks off of a few wins.
Yeah, 1 point I don't think will ever be season breaking, but when
Yeah.
you start stacking things,
Yeah.
is when it gets concerning. Like the combination, like what Data was saying of if high pointing is less than the win streak, then we're just gonna high point every game and go +1. So, yeah, we definitely just have to work.
So as of right now, Icebound, we do not have perks. Also, Chalupa, I do agree with that. I'm of the opinion something like that should be in every rulebook because no rulebook is 100% flawless. Especially at the beginning, there's always going to be something found and some changes need to be made.
The only problem that I have, I think, with the we reserve the right to adjust the rules thing is if a team really puts all their eggs into one basket and then finds out after the fact that we're not going to make it relevant.
Well, I mean,
ideally, that's really a bad look for us, right? Like,
yeah, ideally, rule changes are just small things here and there, not something that you can put your whole basket into.
Raise the spit bars.
All right. Well, before we move off this topic, anyone else have any points? Anything else they want to bring up on the point system standings?
I think ideally after this meeting, right, we're gonna have a post of the video and then maybe a summary of some of the points, and then and also some of the reasons for people who can't watch the video of like why we're making some of the decisions that we're making, and as Ishan said, hopefully there's feedback in that thread of like if you want to have different rules, like feel free to suggest them, and I see no reason why we couldn't add one if we talk about it and see like oh, that sounds like a great.
Yeah. I mean, all we have to do is make it 1 point for this season while we're testing it out, and then track like how many points it would have been if it was more. Because 1 point isn't ever going to be season breaking unless it's a ton of 1 point incentives, right?
Yeah, you have to be careful about how many you introduce.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
We'll be alright. We'll be alright.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, the next point we have. All right. So there was an idea that was brought up in staff chat, and this is for if we have 12 teams. I believe there's a modified version for if we had less, but I'm just talking about the 12 team one. So ideally we have 12 teams, and if this is the case, we had an idea to do 1v1s for side select for game 1. But how it works, you have 11 players per team, and there's 11 matches in regular season, or 11 series if it's 12 teams. You can only send one player, or each player once per season. Or series. Season. Each player once per season to play in this 1v1 for side select. Thought this could be a fun idea. Because as of right now, side select for game 1 is just based off of like the default for how side select is based on for game 1 is points, right? I think it could be interesting to add something else to that like this, which Chalupa, I believe so. And each player can only go once per season, so there's kind of some strategy behind when you send each player. No, it's not required to be a player in the game, I believe. I think we just, as long as it's each player is once per season, then it's fair game.
I think the 1v1's a cool idea. The only situation that I can think that it's like bad is like we just can't, like we start to get to the end and a player is just not here then. But then like you could make the argument, well, you should just play them earlier if they knew they could.
Yeah, or we could just do a thing to where if a situation like that happens, they just have to reach down a tier to grab a player for that 1v1.
Yeah.
And this would only be a concern in like the last series, maybe 2 series. Yeah, no, that's fair data. Um,
I also have the problem too with it of like, if you know that's how game one side select is
oh
gonna
yeah, I
be
guess
done,
that does work
you
as
could
well.
just drop your low point and then actually play the next two. Do you know what I mean? Like, if side select is already screwed for game one,
Mm-hmm.
and I have high, medium, low,
Mm-hmm.
I will just send my low point first because I won't get side select, and then play my other two later.
That's fair.
That's one of the other problems I feel like I see with it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, and it's not gonna
Side
not
select's
happen at
pretty, like,
all.
it's not like that impactful, is
Yeah,
it?
like I mean,
How is it even determined for game one in SDC?
low points.
It's just point value.
Whoever's
right?
lower points, yeah. You know, I think. Yeah, and this is mainly an idea only if we are able to get 12 teams. Just so it does balance out. Yeah, I mean it's mainly for content and fun. It's an idea that we thought of that was content and fun that wouldn't completely like screw balance. Or it really doesn't mess with balance that much at all. I think.
You could also make the argument that, like, oh, we just ate the high point player every time. Is like, well, you ever played fantasy football, dude, and you have like the most points against? Like, sometimes that shit just happens. Like, you just get unlucky sometimes. But I doubt anybody would just like target a team like that, right? Like, there's no way.
What do you mean by that, Chalupa? You know the biggest point differential is a pick
If it's
which
Nick,
game.
I would. Yeah, that's a retweet.
Yeah, you have to request to speak, or raise your hand.
I think you can invite him to speak.
Oh yeah, I can. I invited you to speak earlier. That's right. Right, there you are.
Okay, what I was saying is like, okay, so the two teams submit their rosters for game 1 and 2, and then let's say game 1. Here, I'm just going to use Data. Let's say I'm one captain and Data is the other captain. So in game 1, I am favored by 20 points over Data, but in game 2, Data is favored by 30 points. Mm-hmm. Well, then I've got the bigger point differential because in game 2, that's the biggest point differential, and I've got the lowest point. So then I get to decide which one of those two games I get side select for.
So, are you saying this under the assumption that games 1 and 2 are submitted at the same time?
Yes, that's correct.
So in regular season for 3 blocks, that won't be the case.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I missed the first little bit of this, so I assumed we were doing best of 5, so I apologize.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, regular season, I believe, will be 3 blocks. Best of 5s will be for the Swiss stage, first round at least, in playoffs.
Okay, well, then maybe just for the best of 5 in Swiss, I don't know.
Yeah, no, best of 5 will have 1v1s will not be relevant to side select for that. I believe it. I mean, as of right now, it is lower points.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like for season 0. So yeah. Anything else on that, or was that all?
No, that was it.
Okay, cool. No, you're good. You're good. No, that's totally fine.
No, I appreciate the.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Have no problems clarifying things. All right. Well, if anyone else has any points on that, say your piece now before we move on to the next topic. We have 2 left. Oh. Wait, there you go. Welcome back, Data.
Sorry, real quick. I
Okay.
think the wing conditions of the 1v1 should be short. Just
That's
for
fair.
time purposes. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to see.
No, I agree.
I think they do 50 CS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Some-
50, and then like just force them to fight. Really, is the big thing.
Yeah. A killer like 50 CS seems fine. I think. That I definitely agree. It should be shorter than 100 CS for a tower though. 100% agree.
Yeah, that's it though.
Okay, cool. All right. Next point. Oh, I was just gonna give away the draft day. Yeah, why not? Huh? Yeah. Oh well, there isn't a set day yet, but there is a set range of days. The draft will either be it'll be on January 9th or 10th. Draft will be on January 9th or 10th. And I can say that fairly confidently. Obviously, it could be changed, but I would not be expecting it to change. It would be on one of those days. All right, and last set point I had in my plans anyway. If we have anything else to talk about after, we can. But I just wanted to ask if anyone had any suggestions or ideas for more features to the website, or if there's any problems with this season, if there's any captains here that got to experience picking and roster submission through the website. Is there any problems you had, suggestions you had, anything in that realm? Or just new ideas for it. I am open to adding whatever. Currently, I'm planning on having everything on the website and completely foregoing a Google Sheet. That is the plan. There will be a roster planner on the website for the whole season. OPGG links will be added to rosters. I did see that in the feedback form. There will be roster planner, regular season roster submission. It will track your incentive points and your standings. Aside from unique champions, I haven't figured that out yet. But upsets, high pointing, stuff like that will be tracked live, etc. So if anyone has any other ideas, let me know either now or in the future. I'm always open to adding whatever. Yeah, okay, so there will be stats. Actually, I will say this now. So I plan on going kind of crazy for stats on the website. Season 0 won't have stats because I don't have access to attorney codes yet because Riot is taking 20 years to accept my application.
We can get stats.
We can get some basic stats probably, yeah.
I did the chat GPT method. We could pull the basic stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it'd be worth to have.
Okay. Well, the idea is every player who has ever participated in any season of the Final Boss Draft League will have a page on the website. Their page will have a couple things. First of all, the base page will have an overall culmination of all their stats from all seasons combined. And then there will be a drop down where they can look at individual season stats, and there will also be a trophy case there for any seasons they've won. And that's like my base idea as of right now. But there could be more added to that if anyone has any ideas. As of right now, I'm planning on tracking stats for overall and each individual season. And trophies. There is a homepage button on every page that wasn't the matchup viewer pages just because I forgot to add them. In the future, every page will have a home button. You just, on every other page, you can just click Final Boss Esports at the top and it'll take you back to home. Or you can click Draft League at the top and it'll take you back to the Draft League homepage. Yeah. So yeah. Big plans for the website. If anyone has ideas, let me know. And while we're at it, I think that was the last set topic I had in my plans. Jared, if you have anything else you want to talk about, or if anyone else has anything they want to talk about here, now's your chance.
I got nothing.
You got nothing? I don't have anything. Anyone else got anything? Ray's just typing. Any plans for postseason awards at EG? For season 0, no. Season 1, probably. And that's another thing that I can add to player pages, actually. I can add like a kind of a award box next to the trophy case. There will be postseason awards of some kind for sure. Yes, there will be. To Chuba's point. Rules will definitely be more set in stone than they were for season 0. Season 0 was meant to be more of a for fun test environment type thing, for us to gather information and you guys to have some fun. Season 1's definitely gonna be more serious, I guess. It's a good word to use there. Still for fun, but a little more set in stone in terms of rulings. All right. Well, if no one else has anything to bring up, gonna call it here. This VOD